You can't win with a bitch for a quarterback.
Does Julian Edelman believe Jimmy G is a
One of them was because Jimmy Garoppolo was being a bitch.
Welcome to That's Good Sports. Here on YouTube, I'm a guy who has dedicated his entire professional life to saying silly things about football. And today, I am honored to share with you Julian Edelman following in my footsteps and reading this Martellus Bennett quote about Jimmy Garoppolo on the I Am Athlete podcast.
He decided not to play right before the game. Jacoby Brissett came out and played with a fucked up thumb and played his heart out. But Jimmy was being a bitch about it all.
He also revealed he's still terrified of Bill Belichick, who is not a fan of Edelman's impressions of him.
To turn on the TV and see you doing me every day. Like, what are we doing here?
And I'm over here, I'm sitting on eggshell. I'm still scared of the guy. I don't even play with him.
That's the main story today, plus an NFL boxing match is in the works and a brief Deshaun Watson update before his punishment is cemented later today or tomorrow, which I will cover later. That's good sports. Former NFL running backs Adrian Peterson and Le'Veon Bell have agreed to box each other on July 30th. It's the running back who beat his kids versus the running back who beat himself. Now I can say with full confidence that I have no desire to watch this fight, but I probably will. I'm guessing there will be very few punches and a lot of holding on to one another. Just like these two guys have been clinging onto their careers the past couple seasons. Everyone will know when this fight is over except for them. Now, the Houston Texans have officially been added to the Deshaun Watson lawsuits for enabling his alleged sexual misconduct. I mentioned that a week or two ago, but so far everything the plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby, says he's going to do, he does. And he's also stated that this is just the first of many lawsuits to be filed against the Texans. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're a Texans fan, this is the time to gather and throw in a lawsuit for that DeAndre Hopkins trade as well. Now, there is a hearing today for Deshaun Watson and the NFL has to recommend to Deshaun, to the NFLPA, and the disciplinary officer, Sue L. Robinson, their punishment recommendations, which are believed to be an indefinite suspension for at least a year. Now, again, I'll discuss this more in a separate episode as soon as we know what actually happens at this hearing, but it's not looking good for Watson or the Texans now. And in some refreshing and non-controversial news, Amazon has finally announced that 17-year NFL quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick will be joining their Thursday night football coverage for pregame, halftime, and post-game analysis. Yes! I, for one, am very excited that Fitzmagic will still be in our lives. If Thursday Night Football was a football player, it would be Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's not the best time slot and the quality is very hit or miss, but I cannot imagine life without it. And just a couple weeks ago, I did a video tribute to the one-of-a-kind career of Ryan Fitzpatrick that chronicled his journey from a 7th-round pick to becoming the greatest Jets QB of all time. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that take. And there are some decent games on Amazon this year. We've got Chargers-Chiefs to kick things off week 2, Broncos-Colts in week 5, Ravens-Bucks in week 8, Titans-Packers week 11, and Bills-Patriots week 13. And just doing a quick count, there's surprisingly only one game where Fitz has played for both teams. That's the Dolphins-Bengals game, week 4. The pregame, halftime, and postgame will be hosted by Carissa Thompson, who was a bit of a surprise selection over my choice, former Good Morning Football host Kay Adams. Other studio commentators will include Tony Gonzalez, Richard Sherman, and Marshawn Lynch. This could be the greatest or worst pregame show of all time, depending on how things come together. But given their alma maters include Cal, Stanford, and Harvard, we know they've got some good heads on their shoulders. Now, before I get into the Jimmy Garoppolo slander, I suggest you watch the full episode of the Julian Edelman interview on the I Am Athlete YouTube channel. The conversations there are always really good, insightful, and fun. And to prove I'm not just a slanderous clickbait whore, here are 4 things I found more interesting than the Jimmy G sound bites from that podcast. First, Julian Edelman is sort of contemplating playing again, but if he came back, he would want to be a Patriot, not a Buccaneer.
If I would ever come back, I would want to come back as a Pat, probably. Be part of that.
Okay.
Wow.
What's that relationship?
I heard you. I'm just like, wow, because Julian Edelman, if he comes back, it's going to be Tampa.
And it's because he trusts Bill Belichick more than Tom Brady.
But the one guy you can always bet on is Bill Belichick. He's going to have a fundamentally sound football team, and you never know if you get into the tournament with the fundamentally sound football team that doesn't make mistakes, that goes against an explosive team that has crazy athletes everywhere, that f***s up and makes turnovers, jumps off sides, has illegal formations, all these little things, those teams lose.
Brandon Marshall confirmed Julian Edelman is indeed
You beautiful. Like you a top 5 handsome man in the world.
3. Edelman hated going up against Ravens corner Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith.
Wow. It's always somebody you don't expect.
Right.
There would be times he would win. He was a long guy, and he was also kind of quick. He was patient at the line of scrimmage. He kind of knew how to f me. I won my battles, but he won his.
And finally, I hate to say this, Julian Edelman is the ultimate team player. I still hate the Patriots, but damn it, I respect his approach to the game.
Would you do anything differently?
No,
like
I
what
wouldn't.
you just said, right? Like
I wouldn't. You know, I'm not a greedy guy. You know, I'm cool with. You know, we make great money. I didn't make the best money at my position, but you know, I won 3 Super Bowls. I've got to have some unbelievable relationships, meet unbelievable people through, you know, winning big games. You know, sitting here on I Am Athlete. You know, because. Obviously not because of my regular seasons, because, you know, those big ass games.
Julian Edelman thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is a bitch. More accurately, Martellus Bennett said that Jimmy G was a bitch, and Julian Edelman did not disagree with him. Now, this was all in reference to a 2016 Week 4 loss to the Buffalo Bills that Garoppolo missed with a sprained left AC joint that he had suffered 2 weeks before.
We lost 2 games. One of them was because Jimmy Garoppolo was being a bitch. He decided not to play right before the game. Jacoby Brissett came out and played with a fucked up thumb and played his heart out. But Jimmy was being a bitch about it all, Bennett said.
Now, my reaction when I heard this was the same as Swaggy P's.
Wait, a teammate said that about his quarterback?
yeah, that's Martellus Bennett.
Martellus.
So they played together.
Marty.
Now, these Martellus Bennett comments are old, okay? They're not a new story. Julian Edelman reading them is really funny, but I think there's a code amongst players that you don't talk shit about injuries, and Bennett certainly did not abide by that. So Julian Edelman never called Jimmy G a bitch, but he definitely understands where Martellus Bennett was coming from when he said that. I don't know how much that played a role into the Patriots trading Garoppolo a year later. I think that had more to do with not being able to hand out another long-term contract to a starting caliber QB when you've already got Tom Brady on your team. But again, I love the interviews on this podcast because they're always candid. And this made me really like Edelman.
Whenever Marty Bennett spoke, it reminded me of Samuel L. Jackson monologues. and as I'm reading this, that's what I'm thinking of.
Now that said, he should have maybe given Garoppolo some sort of credit or defense. QB injuries can be the most detrimental to an entire team's performance. It's like if we had an example of this. Oh yeah, Baker Mayfield and his non-throwing shoulder injury last season. Instead,
Is that a big deal, like the non-throwing shoulder?
I mean, I don't know. We're all football players here. But Jacoby broke it. He tore his ligaments in his thumb in the win against the Week 3 team. And so we go into Week 4, and, you know, I guess, you know, Jimmy was practicing and then, you know, decided not to play. And Jacoby played with,
no ligaments in his thumb, which you can't do that as a quarterback. You can't grip, and if it's your left, and a lot of guys got mad about it. A lot of guys got mad. I'm not gonna lie, I got mad about it. I sacrificed my body all day long. I was taking shots for this, numbing up that, ribs, broken ribs, shoulders, grade 3, hanging on by limbs just to play, and I can understand why Marty thinks like that.
Well, Tom Brady is definitely a crybaby who pouts when he loses to Nick Foles or any QB he doesn't respect, but no one has ever accused him of not playing through injury. Although, come on, he watched Phillip Rivers play on a torn ACL in the playoffs and then missed a whole season with the same injury a year later? Seems pretty soft to me. Now, Garoppolo also missed a near full season in 2018 with the torn ACL, and no one is going to call you a bitch for not playing through that. Except for 5 seconds ago when I just did. Seems pretty soft to me, but aside from that, since getting traded to the 49ers, Garoppolo missed 10 games in 2020 and another 2 games last season in 2021. Now, those injuries were a sprained ankle and a calf something or other, and I know for a fact that he did try to play through the high ankle sprain in 2020, but Kyle Shanahan gave him the hook. Martellus Bennett might have something to think about here, because he called Garoppolo a bitch for missing 2 games with the sprained AC joint, which has varying levels of severity.
You can't win with a bitch for a quarterback, first of all.
And praised Jacoby Brissett for playing through a torn ligament in his thumb. But just last year, Jimmy Garoppolo did the same thing for the 49ers.
Jacoby played with, no ligaments in his thumb, which you can't do that as a quarterback. You can't grip.
In a Week 16 loss to the Titans, Jimmy G tore a ligament and chipped a bone in his right thumb. Remember that? He missed just 1 game and came back to lead the 49ers to 3 straight wins, including 2 playoff victories before falling 3 points short against the eventual Super Bowl champions in the NFC title game. I reject the notion that Garoppolo is a bitch that does not play through injury. Heard it here first. As soon as the season was over, he underwent surgery to repair his right thumb that he played through. I can't say that he played really well through it, but he won playoff games, including besting the league MVP-led Green Bay Packers. Furthermore, why is Martellus Bennett so pissed about 1 loss from a season where they lost just 2 games and won the Super Bowl? What a weird thing to harp on. I also reject the notion that you can't win with Jimmy Garoppolo.
You can't win with a bitch for a quarterback.
Garoppolo holds a 33-14 record in his career and had his team ahead in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl. Now, I can't say he was great in those last 10 minutes of the Super Bowl, but hey, neither was the 49ers defense. He's played on some really good teams with great coaches and supporting casts, but Bennett was talking about winning with a quarterback, not winning because of one. Now, we can actually solve this argument. Let's send Jimmy Garoppolo to Cleveland to play quarterback. He and Jacoby Brissett can rotate as starters every other week while Watson is suspended, and we can see who is better and who is tougher. Garoppolo has never complained, at least publicly, about players, about the 49ers moving heaven and earth to draft his replacement. He just kept his head down and brought his team within a dropped pick of a Super Bowl appearance. He's also never called anyone a bitch publicly, which goes a long way in my book. Now, maybe he's changed, though. Bennett and Edelman are talking about a 24-year-old Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy that's now 30 years old. People grow up. They get tougher. I doubt that Garoppolo would call any of his Patriots teammates assholes for anything that may have happened, 6 years ago, because he definitely could. He could. He totally has reason to do so, but he hasn't, and he probably won't. Why? Because he's not insecure. That's why. Yesterday I said I'd probably get an Avalanche recap up. Not happening. I just talking about secure. I am not secure about myself. talking about hockey. But stay tuned for a 2007 season episode and a Deshaun Watson episode once that news breaks.